Hello, GHAF church family. It's nice to be able to connect a little bit with you this weekend. I've found out that it really helps the isolation that we sometimes feel during this time of crisis to call some of others on the church family and just visit. It's kind of heartwarming to do that. What we'll do now is enjoy a virtual church service with a little music and prayer, and then an inspirational sermon from Jesse, and then I hope you'll be able to join the Zoom session because we're finding that session discussing the sermon and just talking about our lives is kind of really encouraging and heartwarming. So enjoy the service and then check in at the Zoom session. Thanks so much.
Hi, welcome to our worship service in a virtual world in this weird situation. We are so glad that our GHAF family has joined us today and is going to be worshiping along with us. We would like to offer a prayer as we begin today. Dear Lord, we just thank you so much for your blessings in this time when it seems like things are crazy. We are choosing to lift up praise and joy to you. We want to bless your name in the sunshine and in the desert and in those hard places, and just ask for your sustenance, for your strength and your love to just come through. We just appreciate that and are so thankful for that in our lives. And thank you so much for this time that we can be together and worship you. Amen.
Blessed be your name in the land that This is Jesse. It's good to see, well, again, I can't see any of you, but it's good to be with you again. Uh, this is a different thing that we're trying out during this quarantine period that we're all in. We are going to be doing 4 weeks in a series called Let's Talk. And in this, I interview different age groups from the church. So this first age group is our kind of late 20s into the 30s, especially people with kids. Um, this generation or this phase of life, what's it like for them? What's their experience been growing up? What's their experience now? What are their hopes and dreams for the church? And then we'll do some talking with our older generation, and then we'll do some talking with our young adult, even younger adults generation as well. And then on the last week, we'll do like an intergenerational panel where we talk a little bit together. And so I hope you enjoy this. I hope that it's insightful and helps you get to know each other. This is less focused on on biblical, like we're going to open up the Bible and talk. This is more about us getting to know each other in the midst of a time where we have to be socially distant. So I hope that you are continuing to do Bible study and talking with each other outside of this, but I hope that this is a really cool opportunity for you to get to know people in a way you might not have otherwise. So if you want to give, continue giving, go to Adventist Giving, or go to the GHAF page, and there's a link for giving there. That's the best way to give in this time. If you're making less, give less. If you're making more somehow, give more. It's always just an act of faith to say, Lord, we trust you even in times of chaos and craziness. And so that's my what's the word? Plug? I don't even know. This is very informal. So anyways, hope you enjoy this.
Good to see everyone. How's everybody doing with the quarantine and either staying home or not staying home? And how's everybody doing?
Good. It's really it's no different other than not being able to go shopping when you want to.
Yeah, true. Yeah.
I've needed to get some stuff done around the house, so it's given me a little bit of extra time for that.
That's good.
I've been teaching some piano lessons through time. And I just finished today because I've started my maternity leave as of right this second. So
nice. There you go.
Yeah. But it's been challenging. I'm gonna try and do a recital through Zoom on Sunday, so we'll see how that goes.
Wow, there you go. That'll be probably one of the more unique recitals you ever have, huh?
It'll be a first.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. How about you, Arn and Jennifer?
It hasn't been a whole lot different for me, but I do look forward to the outings that I did have that I don't really have anymore. So
In church.
Yeah, church.
Yeah, Sabbath is kind of a big deal for me. It's like, yes, I get to see everyone and have some conversations, but obviously that's not happening. So yeah, in that regard, it's more difficult. But other than that, it doesn't feel different to me.
I'm essential, so I'm going to work. Nothing's changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, we need you to make sure that the rest of us have power and internet and all that. Yeah. Steve, what's it been like for you with the radio and everything?
I still have to go to work, but we are just constantly trying to figure out a plan B in case the building kicks us out, because there's a chance of that. But yeah, somewhere or another, we have to figure out a way to stay on the air. So it might be doing something like this where we patch it through and we're all doing a show from our homes, or we're all going to have to broadcast out of someone's, like some kind of a location outside of the radio station. But it's been a nightmare, just trying to figure that out off the air. On the air, we're trying to stay positive and still put on, an entertaining show, because our listeners seem to be really appreciating that we're still giving them a distraction from whatever it is that they're dealing with in their own home.
Yeah.
It's harder to find things to talk about now, because it seems like all anyone can talk about is the quarantine. And
we talk a lot about the quarantine. We're trying to find like the lighthearted stuff, but that's hard, because there's still, at the end of the day, there's still a lot of sadness from it. But we're trying to find some of the more like odd human interest stories that happen because of the COVID-19 stuff, and then also just trying to do stuff that has nothing to do with it, because it seems like that stuff is really resonating with our audience, that they're hearing it everywhere. So we're kind of trying to be that place where if we do talk about it, we're trying to find a fun spin, or we just stay away from it.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. And yeah, it's because it's everywhere. But yeah, along those lines, let's switch gears from that into. I just have this question. We're going to ask all of the generations because you guys are the first group that I'm interviewing. So we'll ask like the young adults, and then and then our older generation, empty nesters. We'll ask all the same questions. So if you guys are ready for this, what's the worst style that you've ever rocked? And I'm curious. So we'll start. Maybe Matt and Cassia. Do you guys want to start? Or
yeah, go ahead.
No, you go first.
Okay. So for a while, I was into the kind of the like progressive rock, indie rock, metal scene. So I adopted some of those like skinny jeans and like tight t-shirts, the studded belt kind of thing. So yeah, that fun stuff. So I didn't.
He wanted gauges.
Yeah, I didn't quite have the hair to do the whole scene kind of thing though. So.
I tried to grow my hair out so I could have skater hair, but it just grew up.
Yeah,
that's
me.
Yeah.
Cassia? I didn't have any worse styles because I was always in style.
I was gonna say.
You're the only one, apparently. I don't know about.
Well, I couldn't.
It's the very preppy style.
But like, yeah, I was very like Gig Harbor. Like, I would wear Hollister and Abercrombie, and like, we also had a uniform at our school, so it was kind of hard. But yeah, so definitely the Hollister, very preppy. And,
yeah.
In middle
I used to work at Hollister, so yeah, I know about that.
I could totally see that.
It was for one summer, but Jennifer, Oren, how about you?
In high school, I dyed my hair brown and put blonde streaks in it. It was terrible.
Yeah.
To think of. Other than that, I've just always kind of had long blonde hair and looked the same. So, but that was like the worst hair I ever had for sure.
Gosh, yeah.
A hair story.
Yeah, I mean.
Mine's hair as well. I used to have long curly hair with sideburns down to my mouth.
No way.
That was high school. All of high school.
I started dating him like that, believe it or not. Yeah, it's true. He rocked it.
Wow.
He totally pulled it off.
That's so. If you had taken a black and white photo, would they have thought you were from the Civil War? If you had taken a black and white photo of Oren back in high school, would he have looked like he was from the Civil War? Is that kind of what it was?
Maybe.
Probably. How about you, Sydney? How about?
I would say in middle school, I went through a phase where I was kind of like a tomboy. So I wore like baggy shirts, jeans, slicked back hair. So that was one of them. And then in kindergarten, my mom had somehow, for some reason, I have curly hair, obviously, and I had bangs. So we'll just leave it at that.
Wow.
Nice.
Yeah. So I don't know what I think was out of my control, obviously.
Yeah. Just blame it on your mom. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
How about you,
I had
Steve?
a mullet. I had a really nice mullet at one point.
No
Real
way.
high spiked hair, long hair in the back, leather jackets, lots of heavy metal shirts. Major metalhead, sorry.
Wow.
He also dyed his hair bleach blonde at one point.
Yeah, that was bad.
Hey, you have to show us pictures now.
Yeah.
It was more like an orange than a blonde because I did it
Yeah.
myself.
An orange.
Wow. Man, Steve and Oren, I'm missing you guys when you had hair. You guys decided to go all the way off. So
I've been trying to let me grow a skullet, but she won't let me.
Oh man.
No.
Well, let me ask you this question: how long have you, as either personally or as a couple, been part of Gig Harbor? Jennifer, Oren, do you want to start off?
Yeah.
How long have you been part of the church specifically?
Wow. Wait one.
Well, why don't we start with Steve and Sydney then?
It was like shortly after maybe like a year or two after they established, because I was at Tacoma Central, and then whenever they started the Gig Harbor one, I would say maybe a year or two after that. So maybe 2008, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. When?
Same
Yeah,
time.
same time. Okay.
Yeah.
Nice. How about you, Matt and Cassia?
What is it? 8 years almost?
No, 8 years in October.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, we started going when we were engaged.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Wow. That's great. Now you have a kid. Now you have a second one on the way. Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Jennifer and Oren, how about you guys?
Yeah, October 2013. So coming up on 7 years.
Yeah.
Wow.
Your head's chopped out. Oh, there.
So about a similar amount of time for all of you then. What's been a highlight of being part of the church for you? And we can start off with you, Jennifer and Oren.
I would say the relationship, and I feel like I've grown the most in my Christian walk since being part of this group. So that's pretty huge for me. The worship is really great as well. But I guess I would say those things.
Yeah. I think a positive, uplifting worship experience every Sabbath.
Yeah.
So that was a great change for us.
She's gonna be a star, looks like. Yeah, how about you, Cassie and Matt? What's been a highlight for you?
You should say the one you said.
For me, it's been having Ezra in the church and watching how everybody's embraced him, and everything from his baby dedication was really special, and then baby showers have been just a huge blessing to us. So it's been really cool to see a church embrace our kids as like their own.
Yeah,
so
that's awesome.
And then I've really enjoyed doing worship as more of when it's our whole family, but specifically when we just the two of us do it. It's a fun thing to do as a married couple and enjoy doing that together.
Yeah.
And kind of choosing songs and talking through how to plan a service or plan our song set is really nice to do as a married couple.
Yeah, that's awesome. And it's awesome that you guys have the talents to be able to do that together. That's pretty cool. Steve and Sydney, what's been a highlight for you?
Playing music, definitely. The music side's been really awesome. And honestly, seeing Tatum watching, even though I know she doesn't know what's going on, but that's been pretty powerful just to be able to look out and see her there and know that she's going to grow there. And that's been fantastic. And spending time with Clarence right before we got married, we spent a lot of time with Clarence and Diana, and that was pretty special. And I think that really kind of set us off in the right foot when it came to our steps towards getting married.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say the same things. Just seeing him be involved in the church and watching it grow and just change, like with the worship teams, and it'll be fun now seeing her grow and becoming involved in the church. But yeah.
Well, this is and I'm so glad that I don't know where Ezra is. I'm sure he's occupied somewhere. But
yeah.
Oh, he's with your parent. Okay, there you go. But it's so cool to have your kids here too, because I know that having kids has probably changed a lot of your involvement at church or how you relate to church. But so let me ask you this just before, because this is actually a question I didn't have down. But tell me a little bit about what it's like, how having a child has changed church for you or changed the community for you.
What do you think?
I don't know. It has become. I don't know what words I want to what words I'm trying to think of, but it's really important to me that she have that faith and the belief in God and to grow up in the church and to see the importance of it. So I'm excited for her to go. So Saturdays are a little bit different now when we go to church because I'm excited for her to get ready and to go and to just kind of be in that atmosphere and learn more about it because it is so important to me that she has that faith. So just, as she grows up and whatnot, trying to find that balance of not forcing it on her, but to make it something that's fun and exciting for her to go to.
So it kind of changes. Church isn't just about, and this sounds bad, but I don't mean it that way. Church isn't just about you.
Yeah.
It's changed and more about her as well.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I think it's also been a lot of fun just to see how everyone else outside of the, I'm sure you guys noticed it too. It's really cool to see how much it just strengthens the community of everybody that goes to church together, to see how everyone's reacted to seeing Tatum and wanting to get to know her. And it's going to be a lot of fun to watch her get to know everybody as she gets older.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyone else want to add? If you don't have anything to add, that's totally fine. But if you want to, feel free.
There's part of it that's a blessing and a curse. I mean, specifically for us, as we often find when we are doing music. Obviously, Ezra is not old enough to do music yet, so it's a little hard to kind of balance that of like, okay, taking care of a kid and both being up there, especially when it's the family. So that there's parts of that, and then he's definitely a ball of energy. So sitting through an hour service is not his favorite activity.
Yeah.
So he's good most of the time, but sometimes he just can't sit still for the full hour. So it does kind of affect how we sit through like the full sermon. And but the blessing of it is kind of what was talked about, of like the investment that other members are putting into Ezra, and to see how he interacts with them. And I know some of my favorite memories growing up in church were interacting with a lot of the adults. And so it's interesting seeing it from a parent's perspective now.
Yeah. Whenever we pull into church, Ezra knows, and he goes, church. He knows the parking lot. So that's been
awesome.
like really hard during this quarantine, is explaining to him that we're not going to church and trying to explain what church is. So
Yeah. Jennifer and Oren, you have the newest edition, I think, right? Or is Tatum even younger?
Tatum's newer.
Just a little. Okay, so both of you.
Yeah, younger.
And then, and Cassie, I know you have another one on the way. But Jennifer and Oren, do you have anything to add?
I'm just excited to see them grow up in this church environment. That's really exciting. But yeah, it is more challenging. I mean, everything has to be way more planned out. You have to get up way earlier and just like be like, okay, this has to happen. And it's just very scheduled. There's nothing really relaxing about it. But
not as relaxing, but there are other joys that come along with it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's fun to watch them have the experience of doing it, and just and the support of everyone at church, like Cassie and Matt were saying. I mean, that's pretty huge. And just really excited for them to grow up in that environment. But yeah, it's challenging. I'm not gonna lie, it's hard. Like it takes a lot of extra work to get kids ready and get from point A to point B.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know for other generations, for those who are younger and haven't experienced it yet, it can be hard to understand how it might change your involvement in church. And then for those who are older, I know that they have a sympathy. For those who've had a kid, they have a sympathy and an empathy towards what you're experiencing. But also, I know it can be easy to forget just how much goes into it. So just hearing that, I'm sure, is an important thing for everyone in the church to hear. But that kind of leads me into the next question, which is, what do you think that your generation, and we're not speaking strictly in generations like millennials or something like that, but what do you think people in your phase of life, kind of in a similar circumstance and place that you're at, what do you think that you have to offer to the church? Or what do you bring to the church? That's the better question.
Babies.
I was going to say that too.
Totally true.
Stays alive for sure.
Steve, Sydney, do you guys want to start, or?
What do you think?
That's a good question. I think we all bring something that shows that a churchgoer is not. There's no stereotype to it. Everyone is unique and different. I mean, I know that I probably don't look the part. And I mean, there's been times where we've been in different places where someone comes up, like somebody on the sidewalk and starts telling me how I need Jesus in my life, and because of the tattoos or the shirts that I wear, and I just have to kind of like laugh internally. Like that time we were in San Diego or LA when that guy came up with a pamphlet yelling at me because he's like, "You need Jesus in your life," and I'm just like, "I drum for Jesus every Saturday." So I think that's something that's important, that there's not like a set cookie cutter type of person that goes to church. I think there's something to be said about that, and I think that's a big part of what I really enjoy about Gig Harbor, is that there's so much uniqueness to what we have.
Yeah, that's good. Anyone else? What is your age group, phase of life? What do you guys bring to the church?
On an overly philosophical point of view,
I'm ready.
yeah. So it's that, like, especially, I feel like coming out of college, you kind of have this like messianic complex of, I'm going to change the church, I'm going to change the world, like it's going to go great. And then starting to late 20s, 30s, you're starting to realize, oh, well, I probably can't change the world by myself. And so there's like that interesting, still that desire for a lot of change, to see a positive change, both in your local church, the global church, and then the world. But realizing that there's more difficulties to just being there than that it takes. So that's something that I've realized in my late 20s, is that it's not as easy to make all those changes that you thought, oh, the church needs to do this, but in reality, I might not be wise enough to say that is it an accurate change, or that maybe it is a change and just not getting done. I don't know.
So almost like this balance between wisdom and passion, where it's like you come out of college just raring to go.
Yeah.
Whereas, and this is not indicative of everyone in the older generation, but it might be easier for someone as they grow to be very wise, but to lose some of the passion and energy. Maybe energy is a better word. So maybe you bring a kind of a balance to that.
Yeah, or just, it's all, partly a confusing place in life too. Just getting started in careers and things like that, and at least for our part of it, getting started in careers and still trying to feel established.
Yeah.
So it's also a confusing place, and I'm not sure what that brings to a church, but it does bring a different dynamic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cassie, anything to add?
Well, I was just thinking energy. I mean, like, and I know anyone that was in our age group would say the same thing. Yeah, just energy, maybe like some fresh ideas, new perspectives, and I think, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I guess the other part is, like, not that we're super culturally relevant, but we're at least a little bit closer to the culture.
Yeah.
As far as understanding like technology and things like that in a different way.
Yeah. How about you, Oren? What do you think?
Well, I appreciate what everyone's said already. I think I agree with a lot of that, and those are really good points. But I was thinking, it's just in a community, you want all groups represented, right? I think our age group is largely missing from a lot of churches. I think a lot of groups are missing from a lot of churches these days. But I think so it's just filling in that gap where you would just have a void, basically. So I think it's just the continuity of generations filling the community.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. Well, what are this is a harder one. So we'll talk in a second about things that you might think are misunderstood about people in your phase of life. But just before we get to that, let's just talk about weaknesses or drawbacks. Now that doesn't necessarily mean that like you're a failure, right? But rather, like, maybe one of those things is because you have kids, it's harder to be as involved as it used to be, or just types of things, or maybe it's just a general weakness of a generation, whatever it is. So what do you think are some of the weaknesses of your generation or people in your phase of life?
I was thinking, and I'm not speaking for everyone at all by saying this, but I think, I don't know the right word, but maybe pride, feeling like we know more, like we're more current, we're like, we know, like, it should be this way, whatever. Yeah, I think that's easy for the younger generation to think that they know it all. So
yeah, for sure. And that is it is a weakness, and I think it happens to every generation. But yeah, that's important to recognize, at least. Yeah. Oren, what are your thoughts?
Personally, and right now I feel like that takes me away from other people and the church as a whole.
Yeah.
Time I'm able to give, and just the amount of energy I have for that, like, it's just spreading myself too thin. And I think that might be common for a lot of people our age, just because we're trying to establish ourselves, careers, or homes, or whatever we're doing, businesses. So I think for me, that's personally, I feel like that's a weakness.
Totally. Yeah, for sure. Anyone else? What are your thoughts? Weaknesses of generation or phase of life?
I think mine kind of relates to Cassia's, but I think entitlement, it could just be the generation we're in general, but I think a lot of people our age and younger just feel entitled to everything.
Yeah.
She agrees.
Yeah. Very passionate about this.
Yeah. Anyone else? You don't have to have anything, but if anyone else want to jump in there.
At least for me, I feel like there's a different way we establish long-term relationships in a different way. That I don't feel like they go often, at least in my case, as deep, because you're able to do things over text or social media and just keep it surface level and stay. And I'm still in contact with this person, whereas, and I'm talking like a long, long time ago, is like you might have to write letters to enable to maintain that level of relationship.
More effort.
More thought into it. So
More effort,
just there's a different way that I think a lot of our generation relates to each other, and sometimes I feel like it ends up being too surface level.
Yeah, when you can be connected to everyone so easily, it makes you less connected to a few people more deeply. And that's not even like, I was talking with, I did this at North Hill too, and we were talking with some of the young adults and just kind of saying like, most of us didn't, like none of us asked to grow up in this age of technology. And we really didn't mean to. But we'll talk about that in a little bit here. What is something that you feel is misunderstood by other generations about your generation or phase of life?
Well, Matt was going to bring up the misunderstanding of what a millennial is. That's like going on in the news right now.
Oh, I know, right? Yeah.
Why are all these millennials on spring break? And we're like, we haven't been on spring break in a long time.
No, that's all Gen Z. You can go find them.
I haven't been on spring break in 10 years. It's not my fault.
Yeah, no, for sure. And there is even that idea that millennials, as I think all of you are, right? Millennials. You're not. Steve, are you just out of it?
Yeah, I'm a Gen Xer.
You're Gen X. Ooh.
Yeah, just barely out of it.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're exempt from this conversation.
Yeah. I'm gonna go feed the baby.
So I think that for some millennials, or for some people, they think millennials are younger than millennials are, and in fact, that's actually Gen Z that is coming into high school and even college right now. So yeah. Anything else that you feel like is misunderstood about people in your generation or phase of life?
Well, along with what Sydney brought up, is I feel like even though we are kind of in an entitled generation, I feel like a lot of, and I'll speak for more millennials, but like a lot of us don't really want that entitlement, and maybe that's more of just the people I'm around, but no one really wants to have that level of entitlement, and it's not to blame other people, but the way we are brought up and the people we were brought up around, it's like, oh, here's the trophy for everything, and it's not your choice when you're 6 that you're getting trophy for everything. And so I don't think a lot of us want to be entitled, but part of it's you can't help it.
Yeah, Oren or Jennifer, anything that you feel like is misunderstood about either your generation or your phase of life by other generations? And you don't have to have anything, but
not aside from getting a little more political, but I don't. Realizations about our generation, but I can't think of too much specifically. No.
That's good. I'm glad. In fact, it's good. Yeah. Steve, how about you? I know, if we're talking Gen X versus millennial, there's a difference there, but do you think there's anything that's misunderstood about where you're at in life or your generation?
I guess the only thing I could think of is that I sometimes feel like people will think Gen Xers are more maybe judgmental of millennials, or the only thing I can get. And I mean, I don't necessarily feel that way personally, but I've seen that kind of kickback.
Yeah.
And then there are also times where people will think Gen Xers are also kind of lumped into that the boomer mentality, and but there's just there's a lot of thought process going on with I think everybody right now, and it's kind of weird when we try and pigeonhole people based on their generation. So for me, I don't personally have judgment towards people that are millennials or Gen Zers. I mean, sometimes I have to roll my eyes, especially recently with things you see in the news. But I think at times that Gen Xers tend to have that label of almost being judgmental or being righteous. And I'm not sure why, but I've noticed that.
Yeah, because you guys, Gen X kind of gets lumped into it kind of gets forgotten. It goes from like boomers to millennials, and you're in the middle there, kind of.
We kind of like rode the wave of all the generations in a sense, I think, because you were young enough to remember what the boomers are talking about, and also we've witnessed how things have just evolved from technology. Just from not even just with with the social media, but also just with music and how things are consumed and everything. I mean, just it's crazy to see. And sometimes I'll talk to Sydney about things, and she just looks at me like I have no idea what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, let me ask this, and I think if you don't have anything to say, that's okay. But I think everyone could have something to say in this because we all have unique experiences. So I was talking with some of our older generation at North Hill, and was asking them about what it was like to grow up in the 60s and 70s. And it was I had to look up some of the stuff they were talking about because it was before me, but it was really interesting to hear the things that they were passionate about, the things that they were motivated by in those times of kind of formative years and growing up through that. So I guess my question is, what was it like growing up through late 80s, 90s, even into the 2000s? What were some of the things that you found you were really passionate about, that some of the bigger things that really influenced your thought, or how you even maybe perceived God or church or anything like that? So I know it's a big question, but what was it like growing up in that period of time for you? So, Jennifer? Yeah.
I feel like there was a lot of freedom that you don't see today. As in, like, you didn't have to worry as much. Hold on a sec.
It's okay. That's okay.
This is a lot of freedom. I feel like you could just, in society in general, I mean, I could ride my bike to the library, which is like 5 miles away, and not worry about it when I was pretty young, and nobody cared, and it was just, you didn't have to worry about things like that. And I think that made a pretty big impact, just that kind of freedom as a kid.
Yeah.
And religiously, it was a lot more regimented for me and for Oren. It was not necessarily something exciting to go to church.
Yeah.
So, although I do appreciate the knowledge that was gained and the dedication my parents had, it was not the most fun experience for church growing up.
It was kind of right before.
Yeah.
It was kind of right around then that contemporary became a thing even. So, so not many churches were into it at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah.
That's all I can say.
Yeah, no, that's it's such an interesting experience to realize, like, even now where it feels like we have more freedom than we've ever had, we're somehow it's becoming more restricted even today. It's weird how it works. But anyone else, what was it like to for you growing up? What were some of the things you're passionate about or that really affected you?
One thing I feel like that was, and maybe this was true of earlier generations, but I feel like the late 80s, 90s, and up until now, but like up through the early thousands, we kind of had the age of celebrity. And so, not that I was like super into celebrities, but it's always like, oh, who's the like top baseball player? And there's like constant 24 news cycles of like everything. So you're always finding out a ton of information. And I think that just the goal usually as a kid is to be famous somehow. And so I think there's, especially when you see so many different celebrities for so many different things, that kind of influences you in an interesting way. And like I said, maybe that's true of earlier generations, but I feel like was maybe heightened for art.
Yeah, different in the sense where when you have technology the way that we've had it, it's always in front of you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cassie, what was it like for you growing up?
It was great. I more was like, I remember more of early 2000s because I'm the youngest one of this group. And it was really fun. I don't really know how to answer that question because it was, I remember the time when we had only cassette players. I remember when DVDs came out and like having a CD player. I remember when I got my first iPhone, like it was. I enjoyed being raised when I was. I feel embarrassed to say that, but
no, that's interesting because there's a perspective, at least in my own head, which is pretty much growing up from the pretty early 90s until kind of the mid 2000s. There wasn't a ton. I mean, other than like 9/11 and some of the wars that we had in big picture news stuff. I didn't grow up into like Cold War, always being worried, always being afraid of what might happen. It was relatively prosperous economically, all these different things. And then, then we kind of hit like in the mid 2000s, we started to hit the Ferguson happened, race tensions blew up, tensions politically started to, everything really started to hit the fan all of a sudden, kind of mid 2000s, but which is weird because I didn't feel like we had a lot to be worried about personally, but I don't know. What about you, Steve? What was it like for you growing up?
It was interesting. I grew up in New York, in Brooklyn, and so I mean, it was what I knew. So it was weird when I moved out here because everything's a little bit different. And I remember bringing Sid to New York the first time, and she's like, "Oh, I kind of understand you a little bit more now because it's just a different way of living." I mean, growing up, I really found just happiness through music. So a lot of my stuff was just through, it was a really good time too. Like, growing up around like the time of like 90s alt rock and grunge, and that kind of stuff. High school was interesting because I went to an all boys Catholic high school and it was strict and it was very abusive. It was a terrible experience, but it really soured me on Catholic Church and just a lot of us, we all kind of left like a little bit different, if that makes sense. So for a long period of time after that, then really religion was something that was kind of in me, but not something that I was going to pursue on a weekly basis, if that makes sense. I was just kind of sour. So, and then when I met Sydney and then she brought me to Gig Harbor, it was really eye-opening because it's completely not like what I was exposed to. So, which was, I mean, in a very good way. So, it's like, oh wow, this is a merging of music and worship and community and hope, and there's something really special about that. That's not what I experienced growing up. So I mean, not that everything was bad. It was just it was a different world in a sense in Brooklyn, New York, compared to what I'm experiencing now.
Than out here in the Pacific Northwest, where there's a lot. It's really suburbia compared to a lot of what the East is.
100%.
Yeah, very different. How about you, Oren? What was it like growing up for you, and any major things or thought, like philosophical ideas or things that happened to your growing up that affected you?
I just remember having a lot of freedom. Like we would just be gone. My brother, of course, it wasn't just me. We were just gone all day, going wherever, doing whatever, finding whatever. Like it was just like a different world almost. It wasn't that long ago. That was early 90s. But I just remember having a lot of freedom and I don't know, just as far as that's the big change, I think. And technology, that was non-existent pretty much. We had a TV in the house, but I mean, for a long time, computers didn't impact my life at all until like maybe late middle school when I finally had to write something on the computer, type it. So I don't know. Like, that all changed, I guess, but that didn't impact my youth as much.
Which is really important, I think. one thing that older generations may misunderstand about late Gen Xers and millennials is that we didn't grow up with technology, we grew into technology, if that makes sense. And so just a quick question, we don't have to dwell on this too much, but like I said before, we didn't ask to grow up into it. It happened to us, right? And so you'll hear people say, like, why are young people always on their phone? Or why do young people have relationships over social media as opposed to in real life and all that stuff? So not that it's all bad, but could you tell me, and again, we don't have to spend much time on this, but tell me in a short way what technology, if you feel like technology has been a good thing, bad thing, and maybe a couple of reasons why.
Matt and I kind of disagree on this question, actually. So
I've been on the more negative side of it. There's a sermon I listened to on digital asceticism, so essentially like kind of taking a break from technology, and it was very convicting of the sense of technology has the easy ability to consume your life.
Yeah.
I think it is kind of the thing of our parents didn't really have the language to help teach us how to come into it. And so no one really knew the exact rules kind of going into how is it good for teens and young people to address technology. No one really had kind of the skill set to talk about it in a way that didn't seem super strict.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, know this. And it's like, well, why? Like that, but I enjoy doing it. Like I would prefer to play video games or, things like that. So there wasn't really a language or a skill set to talk to, at least in my opinion, to talk to teens about how to appropriately use technology in a way that's healthy. And so a lot of us, have some level of addiction because it's like your phone has to be in the same room as you at all times. And otherwise it's like there's some level of like low level anxiety. And I think it's weird, but it's like hard to break from that just because there was no really sense of, like maybe we should do something a little bit different. It was like, well, technology's good, so let's do it.
Yeah, nobody was prepared for technology to invade our lives as much as it did, in essence. Yeah. Cassie, you said you disagree with that. Tell me more.
Yeah. Well, of course I agree with him. But to play off of what he was saying, I'm really thankful that something like this didn't exist when I was a teenager as much because I was actually on the computer a lot. I had MySpace and AIM Messenger, and AIM.
AIM. Yeah, wow.
AIM.
Okay, anyway. Sorry. Either way, that's old. Yeah.
And I loved it. That was basically texting before there was texting. But if I had could have brought my computer into like the living room, I would have been on it like all the time. I would have been obsessed with it because I was, but I had to leave my computer where like I couldn't bring it with me.
Yeah.
And so I'm thankful for that I still like remember a time when we didn't have phones with us all the time and got to have amazing memories with friends because of that. And I wasn't like consumed with my phone. And it worries me for teenagers, especially like my students. They're on their phone all the time. Like when they have sleepovers, I ask them what they do and they're just like, they just scroll through Instagram or whatever. And that's how they hang out. Yeah. And it hurts my feelings for them that's like all they know. So I agree with him on that, but I wanted to say that I really enjoy technology. I love texting. Like I text my mom like every thought I have. And I just love being able to send pictures immediately and like be able to have a camera at all times. And yeah, so
I'm sure it's super nice as a parent to be able to have a camera on hand.
Yeah.
I literally have 20,000 photos on my phone. And they're like all of Ezra.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Wow. Well, I'm sure you do. But anyone else, your experience with technology, if it was good, bad?
I actually don't have a very positive experience with technology because I feel like when I was in middle school and we got the internet, it totally altered our family dynamic in a bad way. Like I remember my dad is a pretty big news nut. Like we always had the news on in the evening, and once the internet came, that's all he wanted to look at was like news and other stuff on the internet. And then all of a sudden it was like, we weren't hanging out as much, and I just feel like my brothers were all about like and messaging and
Jennifer, you just cut out.
all of
Jennifer,
a
you.
sudden, and so honestly, like I lost my life immediately. I actually.
Jennifer, I think you cut out at the worst time.
Yeah.
What's that?
Yeah.
Oh, I did. Okay, what was the thing you heard?
You said
Can you hear me?
you were talking about how it changed. Yeah, we can hear you. We can't see you, but that's okay. You were talking about how it changed your family dynamic, and I think you kind of cut out when you're talking about your brothers.
Yeah, I was just saying that technology just kind of stole them from me. It's kind of my experience, and we just didn't have the same family dynamic after that. So I appreciate that. I think that honestly, the world would be a lot better without it, just relationship-wise. I know that social media brings people together too, but for me, I am kind of old school in regards to that. I like face-to-face. I like real people, real time. I don't really. I mean, it's part of life now, but I remember when it wasn't, and I don't really appreciate what it did to our family.
Yeah.
Growing up.
Yeah. That's so no, and I appreciate you saying that because like Cassie, like you said, it's been a benefit to you, but for some people, it's really invaded the family in a way that was really harmful. And as you said, Matt, people weren't ready, so we didn't have rules or good ideas of what it would do to us long term. So, Warren, any thoughts, or Steve or Sydney?
I mean, I think I'm a combo. Oh, sorry, you can go.
No, I'll finish by saying I think I'm on the same page as Jenny on this for sure. I don't think I had the same disruption in my family, but I just appreciate the older way of doing things and just a slower pace, I guess. Not so much information all the time, but
yeah, that's good. Sorry, Sydney, go for it.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think I'm kind of like in the middle. I think it has its pros and cons. I mean, I think it brings people together, especially if you have family members that aren't around. I think you can connect that way. Whereas once upon a time, it was like, I don't know, snail mail and telephones. So if you don't like talking on the phone, you're kind of, I don't know. But on the flip side, I mean, you do lose a lot of connection. Like it's people have awkward conversations because they're not texting each other, or they're always on their phone. Like I highly dislike when you see everyone on their phone at dinner, and you don't have that connection. So just even with her is finding that balance when she gets to that phase of like, how do you be the cool parents and not deprive your children of the technology, the things that are popular at the time? Like what age do you bring that in? But yeah, on the flip side, like establishing those boundaries, like we don't use technology during this time. So I just think I think it's a difficult balance because it's in your face all the time, and it's a good way to kill time and to get new information, but it also can just totally make you depressed and kids nowadays, whereas once upon a time you didn't have technology, so if you got bullied at school, that was it. You came home and you had your life there, but now you can't escape it. So I just think it's like finding that balance. I think it definitely has its pros, but it has its cons as well.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, you're right. And we've seen an uptick in depression, anxiety, and suicide in our culture when we have more stuff, more comfort, more entertainment, more access and freedom to choice than we've ever had. And yet we're seeing upticks in those things. And I think it does. I'm not saying that technology is bad in it inherently, but some of the stuff we're using it for, the way it's happened, it's
yes, exactly.
Absolutely. It did make college papers a lot easier.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine when I had to, like, even in grad school, when you had to write like freehand, like on tests. I'm like, are you kidding me? My hand's numb. Like,
I don't want to white out half of the page.
I will say that simply the thing I'm most grateful for is growing up into Google. I am
I know.
hands down.
And Wikipedia.
Like, what was that again?
If you don't mind, Steve, I know I didn't ask you, but if you don't mind, I'm gonna move on to the next couple of questions, just for the sake of time, and I'm gonna mix these two together. Tell me your thoughts. So you all have a relationship with God. It's not necessarily based on your generation or your age, but we all have a unique relationship with God. So I'm curious about that, and also, what does that relationship with God lead you to dream for the church? Does that make sense? So first and foremost, what's your relationship with God like, and what does that lead you to dream for the church, specifically a church like Gig Harbor, which you're part of? And whoever wants to start, feel free. Sounds like someone's got visitors.
Yeah,
go for it, Jennifer.
So we'll probably be muted for just a second.
Gotcha. No, go for it, Jennifer.
Yeah, I feel like my relationship with God right now is lacking in like reading the Bible, like as a basic thing. But I also feel like my prayer life has gotten better. So that's, I wouldn't say it's a trade-off necessarily. But I mean, I do find myself in prayer a lot more, just during this baby phase of my life.
Yeah.
But a lot less reading, which I'm a little ashamed about. But that's where I am right now.
Yeah,
and I
that's
really
fine.
having a church like a Carver where I can, worship as freely as we do, and that's a real blessing. The music and everything, and but yeah, I guess it's been strengthened in prayer, but I really wish I had more time to get in the Word.
Yeah, for sure.
And it's a lame excuse because I know you carve out time, but it's just really hard right now to read.
Oh, I'm sure. And we all go through different phases and ups and downs, and so I don't think there's anything to be ashamed of. But tell me a little bit, Jen, about your what do you dream for Gig Harbor? What do you want to see it become, or yeah?
Well, it's the best church experience I've had. So as far as where we grow, I really want that for our kids, and I guess I really just would like to see it continue. I think that Clarence is a great blessing to that church, and I know that he won't be around forever. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens to ministry there.
Yeah.
We love it when you visit. I mean, we think it's great. I just, so I'm curious to see how it will evolve in that way. But I think I'm really hopeful. I think it's going to be continue to be a really good experience, and I know that there's a really strong base there of people that have similar goals, and so I think they turn out really great.
Yeah, I'm excited to raise our girls in this church and have them very involved, because I grew up, or I think we grew up in a church where you were involved. Like kids weren't really just
pushed to the side.
Yeah.
So
it'd be cool to get them involved from a young age and excited about going to church, because that's also something that was lacking, because that wasn't like a highlight of the Sabbath. So I think it will be. It is for us right now, and I hope it continues to be for the kids.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. Steve, Sydney, what's your relationship with God like? What do you dream for the church? Yeah.
I think my relationship is, I guess, ever growing. I mean, I do my devotions and read the Bible every morning. And sometimes I get a lot of it and out of it. And most of the time it's just kind of like that mundane routine, honestly. But I just feel like, I keep doing it because it's a habit that I want to maintain. I get more out of like song and worship than I do out of reading. So I'm not surprised that I don't get a ton out of reading the Bible, but I still feel that I firmly believe that whether I remember that verse or what I read, that God will give me that wisdom of what I had read previously when I need it the most. So I keep doing it. And I just want to constantly grow, in my relationship with him. But I think with the church too, is I want to continue to see it grow and change. And I think obviously we're helping with that by bringing all the littles into the church. But it has been it's been my, aside from Coma Central, this has been my only church experience outside of that. And it's been the best one. I look forward to going to church, and so I think this says a lot. I just want to continue to see it grow and evolve.
That's awesome. Yeah, Steve, what about you?
I don't even know how I could put it into words, but it's rather strong. And this little one right here is the reason, because we spent many years hoping and trying and had no luck. being able to have a kid. And I think what our relationship for me with God has just been about hope and faith, and hoping that one day it would happen. So now every day I look at this child as a miracle, because we never thought, well, we hope, but there was also like that moment in the back of your head, like this might never happen, no matter how hard we try and how hard we pray for it. So when it did happen, it just really strengthened that all those years of having that hope and continuing to have that faith wasn't for nothing, if that makes sense. So that's, I mean, that's, I mean, it's definitely at its, and also, as far as with the church, I mean, I don't have anything to say to anyone else has said. I think everything is, I love it. I never thought I'd step foot in the church again after, Catholic church. And so the fact that I look forward to every week going is a blessing. And I can't think of anything that I'd want to change other than it to continue to move forward and where it's going. I enjoy having you be a part of it when you're able to be a part of it. I really do enjoy the messages that you bring, and the energy that you bring. I love having Clarence there as well. I love the guest speakers. So, I mean, it's just been a really great, I really don't know how else to put it into words. It's just been fantastic.
That's awesome. And I would say that all stated, it's a miracle that that you even had a heart that was soft enough to go back to a church, to even enter a church.
Well, I was just trying to win over her mom and her grandma, and I knew if I went, they'd like me more.
Sometimes it just takes a woman, right?
And then Ron suckered me into playing the drums, and then I was stuck. No,
I got you. Yeah, for sure. Well, we're glad you're here. Matt, Cassio, tell me a little about your relationship with God and what your hopes and dreams are for the church.
My relationship with God it's the most important thing to me. I can't imagine my relationship without the Lord. I feel like I talk to him all the time, and I don't know, it's the most important thing to me. And I want everyone to have that. So I guess that would be my short answer.
That's beautiful. Matt?
And for me, definitely my relationship with God helps bring a lot of stability. And especially
hope,
especially in a time like now with chaos and going just even earlier in life, just confusing situations with college and things like that. And there's just some level of peace and stability that having a relationship with God, you kind of can know what he has in store for you, even if you don't know specifically what it is. And then as far as what I want for the church, I think it's a sense of developing relationships with Jesus that are very strong and authentic in a way that brings peace. Like you mentioned, with the increase in suicide and anxiety, just in our church as well as outside of our church in our community, that's definitely something that God brings that isn't really available anywhere else, is just a level of being able to reduce your anxiety and the worry that just goes on outside of, because life is crazy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, I really appreciate all of your comments and your perspective and your stories. I mean, goodness, I think that's one of the coolest things about doing something like this is we get to hear stories that we might not otherwise. Like I didn't know, Steve, I think we maybe have talked about it, but I didn't know that you had gone to an all Catholic or all boys Catholic school, and that it really like damaged a lot of your relationship with God. Jennifer, I didn't know, and it's I don't mean this to be a focus on the negative parts of what happened in your family, but I didn't know that had that impact in your family and that it affected you like that. And it's important for others to hear that people have experienced things like that. And so I just appreciate you guys being willing to share. And then on top of that, there's other generations that'll watch this and even other people in your generation and look at it and be like, man, I never thought of that. I never looked at it from that perspective, or I forgot, or I didn't know, And so, and that's why we're doing this. So thank you for all being willing to do this with your kids. It's been, I know it feels like a zoo sometimes in your own house and stuff like that. It's like trying to keep them quiet and all that. I know that's tough, but thank you for being willing to. And it's fun to do life with you in this way, even though we can't be, in the same place. It's fun to be able to do life like this. So, speaking of like technology, this is one of the good things.
I was
Yes,
just going to
agreed.
say that. This
Yeah.
is a benefit.
Yeah. Well, guys, I think that's it.
Well, thank you.